All right, places to be.
Welcome, everybody, to the R&R Catcast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Brian from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy. Welcome back, Bobcat fans. Hope you're doing well in this time of quarantine. Hope you're doing well, getting ready to come out of quarantine. Thorny, how you doing tonight, buddy?
You know, I'm doing pretty good. Tonight is my Friday. I worked on Sunday, so I am not working tomorrow. So it is a good night for me over here. How you doing, my friend?
Love it, man. I am doing good. It is a warm night over sitting outside having pregame beer. It was still 81 degrees, had to turn on the AC for the first time. Now I'm down in my basement freezing.
Went a little overzealous on the air conditioning.
Yeah, man. It just all funnels downstairs, so whatever. But we're doing pretty good.
Nice. Glad to hear it.
Tonight we're going to break down the 2020 FCS preseason All-American teams put out by Hero Sports, as well as their preseason top 25.
I think we're also going to mention that some news about the Bobcat recruiting news. We got a few signees we want to talk a little bit about, touch on briefly. But yeah, we weren't really planning on doing an episode necessarily anytime soon, but Hero Sports released a whole bunch of content. And one of the things in particular got me a little fired up on Twitter today, so I want to talk about that. So here we are recording an episode. Why not? It's Friday for me.
Thorny, before we get into the football, we're going to talk about what's in our koozie tonight. Tonight's segment is brought to you by Shine Sanctuaries. Sanctuaries are among the most sacred places on the planet. Shine Beer Sanctuary is certainly one of the most sacred places in both. Shine has 30 rotating draft beers offering flavors for any beer enthusiast palate. Located in 451 East Main downtown, Shine is also Bozeman's premier bottle shop with hundreds of beers from around the world. Thorny, are you hungry?
Well, I am hungry, but don't worry, because Shine has you covered there, serving the famous La Paria and the Garage Soup Shack, Bozeman's favorite for 25 years. From their beautiful rooftop bar and community-driven values, Shine can help make your beer dreams come true. Come enjoy your favorite beer in a sacred place and shine on at Shine Beer Sanctuary in downtown Bozeman.
Thorny, what are you drinking tonight? What's in your golden koozie?
Well, I haven't opened it yet because I've been waiting. Oh, yeah. All right. So I have a classic summer beer since I got a little bit of flack from a certain co-host last episode when we had Brooks Nuanez on. By the way, if you haven't listened to that episode, highly recommend it. It's a really good content from good football talk. But right now I am drinking a Blue Moon, the classic Blue Moon summer Hefeweizen. Delicious. Belgian white, I guess. But it's a good one. One of my favorites. Always good standby when it starts getting warm out.
I always have to have an orange slice in my blue.
It's hard to do an orange slice and the golden koozie at the same time.
Good point.
I could probably figure it out, though. Never cared to try, but I could probably wedge one in there.
Yeah, a splash of orange juice works in a pinch as well.
I'll have to remember that.
Thorny, did not know we were recording tonight, and so I did not have any time to go secure a special beer. But I do have one of my favorites. It's the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Love it. It's typically in my fridge. Brought it out for the occasion. Surely doesn't disappoint.
I mean, that's what this quarantine is about, right? If you're lucky you even have any beer in the fridge. You can't just, it's not as easy to go running down to the store and just, I'm going to go pick up a 6-pack of something because, at least for me, putting on a mask, going to the store, it's just a pain. So I'm lucky I had any cold beer. I'm pretty excited I had a Blue Moon. I had one left, so I had to drink some wine before this so I could save my one cold beer for the episode. But I'm glad you got your favorite, and I got one of mine.
Well, you have tomorrow off, so it sounds like you have a to-do list already started.
Yep, I need the alcohol supply is running low over here.
There you go, man. All right, well, let's get into today's content. We're going to break down the FCS 2020 Hero Sports releases on their top 25, as well as their All-American preseason lists. Ryan, I think we should probably just save the new signees for thereafter, if that's cool with you. Do you want to get into Hero stuff right now?
I'm sure if that's what you want to do. But just real quick here, if you don't know who Hero Sports is, herosports.com, one of the few outlets who devotes, and I guess in this case, two guys, I think it all is, Sam Herder and Brian McLaughlin, but they're one of the more notable FCS outlets there is. So that's where we're getting this news. And I think they were the first to release any sort of preseason content here. And that's why we're here, just to talk about it. So what do you want to talk first? All-American or top 25?
Let's go top 25.
All right. So I'm not going to assume everyone's read it. I was thinking maybe I'll read the top 10. And if you want to figure out 11 through 25, you can just check out herosports.com for that. But coming in number one, North Dakota State, not surprising. Number two, South Dakota State, a little surprising there. Then we got Northern Iowa, Sacramento State at number 4, James Madison number 5, Weber State 6, Montana Grizzlies 7, Villanova 8, and Montana State Bobcats coming at number 9. And rounding out the top 10 is stalwart Central Arkansas. And real quick here, I'm going to read what Sam and Brian said was their criteria. They both took the top 30 ranking. Each of them did it individually, and then they gave points, and then whoever survived with enough points made it in their top 25. So that's how they compiled this list. There it is. There is the Hero Sports top 10. What do you think, Foley? What are your initial impressions of this? Bobcat football related or not? What's the first thing that jumps out at you?
Well, the first thing I did want to mention before I even get into that, I was Coulter Nuanez and Gus Tutel's show on ESPN 10209, Missoula. And they had Sam Herder on today as a guest. And Sam did mention that when he's compiling this list and he's putting together these preseason top 25s, he's not necessarily looking at it as far as how they ended up last year in the 2019 season, but more or less projecting what they might be finishing off in the coming year. And that's super hard. I mean, we're sitting in almost early June, and obviously this is just preseason fodder for most everybody. This means absolutely nothing, but it does give you a little bit of a head start if you come in on the top 25, specifically if you're trying to make the playoffs. And so there has been talk about that in our past episodes, and you can go back and listen to that. When I first saw it, a couple things jumped out to me. South Dakota State at number 2. I guess I don't know a lot about South Dakota State. They did take NDSU to the wire last year, if I'm not mistaken on this. But Sam and Brian must see some key elements coming back there. I don't really want to focus on South Dakota State. The biggest surprise to me was Sacramento State at number 4. And that's mainly just because I think Sacs, well, I'll just put it this way. They have Elijah Dotson coming back. They have Kevin Thompson coming back. Kevin Thompson was the Big Sky offensive MVP. Elijah Dotson, one of the elite running backs in the entire nation. No doubt that is, that's key and central for sure. However, and Coach Taylor won what? Was he just FCS Coach of the Year and won some other award on that?
You might be right. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, that sounds about right. He was at least in the running for a Coach of the Year.
So I'm throwing all these accolades around, and I'm 85% sure on all of them.
We do a lot of research on this show.
All that being said, is to me, Sac State peaked in the month of October, maybe early November, and then it seemed like Weber kind of figured them out. And we were supposed to play Sac State in the playoffs, but Austin P really took it to them. They looked pretty tight. I remember watching that game. So putting Sac State up at 4, it just seems to me, and this is not a unique take. This is something I'm more or less echoing Coulter Nuanez when I say this. Sac State's never really had the hype, and now they have the hype. And so I'm really interested to see how they handle this, because they were on a tear. It seemed like they were one step ahead in their play calling, specifically on offense for a while. But then they kind of faded towards the end. And so I was really surprised to see Sac State coming at number 4. I'm happy for them. The more Big Sky teams in the top 10, the better, in my opinion. But I'm a little surprised.
Well, you kind of see this sometimes in the Big Sky in particular. A new coach comes in, no one really knows what to make of the coach, the coaching style, the play calling, what they're going to do, and just comes out and just magic just worked out for Sac State. They just had an incredible run. The chemistry with Troy Taylor was a perfect fit for like Kevin Thompson, Elijah Dotson. They had a couple of studs on the defensive line, like George Obina and Choates. I can't remember Choates' first name, but they had those 2 stud defensive linemen, which I believe are both gone. It's like one of the key cogs on their defense, which was an underrated defense. But yes, I don't see how they can be a top 4 team just solely because they lose those 2 defensive linemen, and the element of surprise is going to be gone, I think. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see now that everyone's kind of knows what Sac State's about, and they've had a year to kind of digest Troy Taylor and look at film and just kind of see. You never know, because they made it to the playoffs for the first time, and was it in school history or it was a long time? I can't remember, but they got just steamrolled by Austin Peay. But, a team can learn from that and come back and like, all right, now we know what that takes, because you don't know what that takes if you've never been there. Playoffs is not easy, but it just seems to me like there's so many years where in the Big Sky where there's just like a flash in the pan team, and then next year they're top 5, or even like top 3 season conference pick, and they just fall flat on their face. So I need to see it to prove it from Sac State. Top 4 might be a stretch, but I put them in the top 10 still, so I can't argue with them being on the top 10. But top 4 just seems pretty high above James Madison. That's that's interesting.
Oh, no doubt. Another surprise to me is number 6, Weber State. Man, Weber's offense is, for me, just very hard to digest. And with them, their quarterback leaving, who's their quarterback? Constantine. With Constantine vacating the program, I'm sure Jay Hill has a plan, but that's a tough pill to swallow. And if Weber State can't figure it out on offense, I think they're about hitting their ceiling at that, 8-4 mark in the nation.
I believe also their like second string running back who took a lot of the load when Josh Davis was injured. I think he also left the program. I think they had a couple guys leave. Like their starting quarterback, there's number 2 ball carrier who was starter for several games. It's hard to say. Like as long as Jay Hill is there, I assume their defense is going to be very, very good. But that's a hard things to swallow and still be a top 6 team. But you never know. You never know. Weber State could have it rolling. I'm okay with Weber at number 6, honestly.
Okay. So the last 2 positions we'll talk about, we had number 7, Montana, and number 9, Montana State. Sandwiched in between is number 8, Villanova. Thorny, are you surprised that Montana comes in ahead of Montana State?
I am, to be honest with you. Like this is where it's going to come off as just a couple biased Bobcat fans bitching about the Grizz, but I don't see how you can lose Dalton Sneed and Dante Olson and having just been shellacked by the Bobcats. And yeah, we both I mean, the Grizz almost made it as far as we did in the playoffs. They had a good run until they just completely collapsed in Ogden, but I just can't see them having that much talent, that much production when they lose guys like Dante Olson, who was like the heart of the defense, the tackling machine, everything funneled to him. And then Cam Humphrey taking the role of Dalton Sneed. Sneed was a gamer, and he won a lot of games for the Grizz based just on the fact that when he got into like it's almost like his beast mode type thing where, I don't know, I just can't see Cam Humphrey sustaining that level of success on offense. And I know they have 2 talented wide receivers, and I know they have a second team preseason All-American Marcus Knight, which I'll get to later. Yeah, I don't know. The Grizz are easily a top 10 team, but coming in ahead of the Bobcats, who, yeah, we got a lot of questions too, but we've been proving it longer than the Grizz have under Bobby Hauck. So I don't know. I can't argue a whole lot about any of this. It's all just talk. Where do you think the Bobcats should be, personally?
That's a great question. I hadn't thought about that. If I was really picking them, I'd probably pick them ahead of Weber State at this point. I would flip flop Weber State and Montana State. I'd put Montana State probably at 6, somewhere in there. But Thorny, same old storyline from Montana State, right? Another year, another quarterback question mark. I mean, granted, we had success with Tucker Rovig at the end, and uh, now we have Matt McKay in the fold. And is he going to be the missing piece for this team? Go back and listen to Brooks talk about it, and we talked a little bit about the ceiling for Tucker Rovig, and that's to be seen. Like you said earlier on, he's only had maybe 8-9 starts, somewhere in there. He's a young quarterback still. Can continue to improve by all measures and metrics he was, and so yeah, I don't doubt that he can't. Is he going to take us to the national championship? And that's where basically we ended last year, right? So that's the biggest question. Are we the number 9 team in the nation? I mean, we lose a lot. There's a lot of question marks for me as far as some leadership on the defensive line and definitely in the back end as well, our secondary. So yeah, okay. I don't know. Maybe 6. I don't know, this preseason stuff, right? So I think we are in better shape than Weber. I think Weber gets the nod because they have a majority of their lineup is coming back. We do have some notable missing spots. I'm okay with number 9, but I do like you think we should be above Montana. I think Bobby Houck pulls a little bit of leverage more than he deserves, honestly, and I think he accounts for some of the vote. And I would argue just what Jeff Choate says. It's a player's game.
Yeah, and that's all good points, and I kind of agree with you. Yeah, Bobby Houck definitely sways the voters because he's got kind of the mystique he had from his first run around. So now everyone kind of remembers how dominant the Grizz were in the early 2000s, the 2000 decade, and now they're seeing back, and they got him back in the Elite Eight, I guess you want to call it, right? They filled the Weber in that game, but I can see thinking like, oh, Montana's back, Houck's back, and yeah, they're going to be a good team, but still yet to be proven on that front. So as far as the Bobcats, though, I don't know. I think number 9, honestly, is fine with me because the quarterback play, I think, can't be like it was good enough to get us to the semifinal last year. And obviously, Tucker Rovig is going to be at the very least as efficient and as productive as he was at the end of last season. But where I'm concerned is Kevin Cassis and Travis Johnson not catching balls anymore. Those were 2 very productive receivers, at least productive in terms of what the Bobcats do. You and I talked about seemingly the Bobcats' best throwing play last year was that curl to Travis Johnson near the sideline where he would just run straight at a DB and just stop, and then Rovig would hit him right in the hands and get a 10, 11-yard gain out of it. And Johnson has that athletic ability to shake a defender and make that route. So I think we have a lot of good talent at wide receiver, but it's just going to be really hard to replace the leadership and just the competitive drive of guys like Kevin Cassis and Travis Johnson. So that remains to be seen. Defense obviously has got lots of question marks right now. So number 9, I'm okay with. And plus, I think the Bobcats do better in sort of an underdog role with Jeff Choate at the helm anyway. So overall, fine. Hard to stomach being behind the Grizz. I can't argue it necessarily. I mean, I can't fully disagree with it, but I wouldn't have it that way myself.
Just
because
one more
the
point.
Bobcats are a bit more, real quick here, Bobcats are a bit more plug and play, I think, in terms of the personnel than the Grizz. Like, clearly, Troy Anderson wasn't there for the last several games. Alphonse missed a whole bunch of time. Logan Jones missed some time, and yet we never missed a beat in any of the positions. The way Choate's built the program is to absorb these offseason losses, where the Grizz were basically they want to have their superstars. They want to funnel everything through them. It was Dalton Sneed and Dante Olson. What are you going to do with those guys? Their replacements aren't producing at the same level. Tougher call.
Good
Tougher.
point. I know Jace Lewis is going to come in and spell Dante Olson in his spot, but who spells that? Who spells Jace Lewis? It's good questions right there.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up our conversation about the top 25. You got anything else to say there?
Nope. I'm good to go.
It'll be interesting to see if the Big Sky finishes the same way that the Sac State, Weber State, Grizz, and Bobcats top 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right on. So now we're going to move into the 2020 Hero Sports preseason All-American teams. Thorny?
Well, thanks for that very brief introduction when the setup there. So 3 Bobcats land on the All-American team. We have Troy Anderson, who is a Troy Anderson is my thing is frozen.
He's a first team athlete.
First team athlete. And then we got Lewis Kidd, third team offensive lineman, and Amandre Williams, third team defense, just the defensive line position. We got 3 Bobcats on there. Before we get into discussing anything else, what do you think about those 3 and where they landed? Do you think it's appropriate for Troy Anderson to be first team defense listed at athlete? Basically, like we talk about every time, like the Troy Anderson spot that they make just for Troy Anderson to be on the word lists.
Yeah, I mean, that's just why I'm chuckling. It's just you kind of expect it at this point. He definitely has the athleticism to be on the first team. He has the name. He has everything. But one thing is he's hurt, and he was hurt pretty much the end of last season. It's given a nod to Troy Anderson as a senior, and he's deserved it. So I don't have a problem with it. What's your thoughts?
I think it's fine. I think he was coming on really strong. The last few games he was playing, he was starting to put up some pretty good numbers. He was climbing up the stat sheet for the Bobcats in just a limited playing time. And I think once he gets a full season to show what he can do at linebacker, rushing the passer, I mean, you can't really keep him off. I think it's an easy pick for if you're going to have an athlete position on defense. Why not? Troy Anderson's clearly the winner there.
It's still interesting to me to think that if we polled people on what position Troy Anderson should be playing, we would have such a mix. You would still have a lot of people saying, play him at quarterback. You would still have people saying, no, just give him the ball in the backfield, have him play running back. Now he's a preseason All-American, first team as a defensive player, and he only played. Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, the only thing he hasn't really done is showed up on special teams. Troy Anderson,
only because they don't
first
put him
team,
there.
Place kicker.
Yeah, I can see Troy Anderson doing the old drop kick field goal that Doug Flutie pulled off about 15 years ago for the Patriots. Remember that? It's legal to drop a ball on the ground and then kick it through the uprights. It's a field goal. You can be like your own holder, basically. I want Troy Anderson to do that before his career's over.
Ryan, I'm going to serve you up a question right now, buddy. Where do you play Troy Anderson?
Linebacker. And that's solely based on the team needs and not where I think he might be the most productive, which is sad. I think, honestly, Troy Anderson is an offensive player. I think he's a better running back. I think you could utilize him more in the pass catch game. You could line him up in the backfield. He could option over to the tight end spot, and they could run a route from the tight end spot. There's so many things you can do offensively with a guy like that. But we just haven't had the linebacker talent that we've historically have had with guys like the Jody Owens of the world, the Bobby Dailies of the world. So I think we just have to have a guy like that, just making tackles, making plays, running sideline to sideline. So yeah, I think you have to have him at linebacker. What are your thoughts?
Is Troy Anderson the best running back the Bobcats have?
That's a hard question. I think he's the most explosive. I don't know if he can withstand 20, 25 carries a game, typical running back style, but if you're just talking getting a guy you want to have the ball who's going to have a chance to take it to the house, yeah, he's the best at that, for sure.
That's a tough one for me. One place I know I'm not playing Troy Anderson is quarterback. Just hand him the ball. I think he deserves touches each and every game. He should. I mean, Brooks Nuan has said it. I don't know if it was last week or whenever. When Troy Anderson is in the backfield, the lens is on him because every time he's touching the ball, it's lightning. He has the ability to just take it to house. And that's why
he's a touchdown maker. That's all it is.
Yeah, exactly. And we rode that horse for so long, and it's really kind of got us in trouble on our offensive identity. And now we're starting to come out of that Troy Anderson type, or wildcat formation, triple option. I don't know what we want to call it, but it became predictable for us. And God bless the kid. He's just such a talent, such a special Bobcat. But don't play him at quarterback anymore. But I think you're right. Everything you said about him playing linebacker right now, filling the needs for our team, I agree with that.
Question for you. are the Bobcats going to abandon the Wildcat package completely because now there's no Travis Johnson? The only guy who can do it is Troy Anderson. So if he's on offense, is he a running back? Because if so, that means no more Wildcat package. It's been such a staple. I have no idea what Justin Udy's going to do, but that's just been a staple of what we've done the last several years. You're talking
Ooh,
about
that's
not
a
having
really-
Troy
yeah.
Anderson at the quarterback position. Well, that basically means there's no Wildcat quarterbacks. It means we're not anymore. It's like Troy, or unless there's someone else I don't know about who can do that kind of stuff on the roster. Direct snaps to Alphonse, I guess. We did that a fair amount last year. But not a
No,
threat
we
to throw the
didn't.
ball, though.
We did that sparingly, and it came in late in the season, which made it why it worked because there was no tape on it. And so, okay, I'm just gonna say it. I hope we don't do the Wildcat anymore because that's been our offense. That is our tape, and so, and you saw it in the Grizzly game, right? Soon as Travis Johnson went back to take the direct snap, he was piled up. I mean, they had practiced that play over and over and over again. They were prepared for that, and so against lesser teams, for sure, right? You know what's coming. Travis Johnson's back there. Troy Anderson's back there. They're gonna get the ball. They're just gonna do that same play over and over again. It
Yeah, but
doesn't work when you're working against elite teams, man. It just doesn't work when they know it's coming. I mean, we have what? I think I looked it up today. We have like top, maybe 5 or 6 top rushing offense in the entire FCS. But still, when you know Travis Johnson is getting the ball back there, when you knew Troy Anderson was getting back there, it worked what? Maybe 20% of the time to break?
I would
I don't
say
know.
more than 20% of the time.
You think so? I mean, towards the end, Ryan, I really thought that we were getting more bottled up more often than not than it was becoming productive for us. Granted, it had a big play possibility, and I think that was the lure for us. It was like, okay, it could go, but that 5 to 7 yard chunk that it used to gain just wasn't there because they were just keying in on it.
Well, I just looked up Travis Johnson's stats. I was kind of curious about it. He averaged 6.4 yards a carry. So I'm not sure he was exactly bottled up all the time.
No, but you know what I mean. Towards the end of the season, and go back and rewatch the Cat Grays, right? I mean, I think some of our only negative plays came when Travis Johnson was taking the direct snap.
That's such a weird argument to me because we completely did whatever we wanted against the Grizz. They planned for one thing and they stopped one thing, but who cares? We could do anything else we wanted the entire game. That's what makes was what made the Bobcats such a hard team last year, is because we were so multiple on offense that, all right, you're going to key on Travis Johnson at Wildcat? Well, then we're going to do whatever else we want to do. So, yes, it made it look like that was not an effective part of our game because that's the Grizz' entire 100% focus was stopping the Wildcat quarterback play. So you have teams that aren't, maybe they'll focus on Alphonse, and then that's where Travis Johnson can hit you. Like, that was what was so difficult to prepare for the Bobcats last year. So I don't know. I don't agree. I don't know. I don't know if that's an offense that can take you to the national championship, but it worked really well for the Bobcats for a vast majority of last year, and it's going to be weird to see if we just go away from it because, like I said, it's either Troy Anderson or it's nobody. That's just how I don't know who else is going to do it. We've been talking a lot about this Troy Anderson of preseason All-American talk. I did not expect us to go on a 15-minute tangent about the offense that we're going to run next year, but here we are. Classic. What do you think about Lewis Kidd third-team offense?
Oh, I thought it was a kick in the balls, man. I was really disappointed. In fact, that was my biggest gripe when I'm looking at this. I don't know the other guys on the second team. I don't know the guys on the first team, so I don't know how Lewis Kidd compares to them. I just know that we have one of the elite rushing programs in the entire nation. Lewis Kidd, just an essential part of that. For him to only get third team, all I have to say is the guys ahead of him must be pretty badass.
Yeah, that's one of those things. This list I can only look at and evaluate and comment on things I know. I'm looking at the first team offensive line. I see PJ Burkhalter from Nicholls State. Yeah, I have no idea if that guy's any good. I assume he is, especially offensive lineman. That's just such a impossible thing to evaluate. I think the Bobcats should always have someone in the top All-American on the offensive line. just solely based on the program we built and the talent we always have and the production we always get, you can't leave a guy off from Montana State. And I think Lewis Kidd probably is the leader of the pack coming back. I'm fine with him being third team offense. I think he's going to be a great lineman this year. I'm excited to see what he can do.
Another third team guy we have is Amadre Williams. What do you think of that?
I'm a little surprised by that. I actually give Hero Sports credit on that one because he didn't have huge numbers, at least for the first half of the year. And he started really coming on as things as progressed, and he kind of just got in the system and really got his feet under him, if you will, in Bozeman and under Kane Ione. And I think he is absolutely primed for an All-American type season. I think he is that kind of athlete. I think he is that kind of player. So I give Hero Sports a lot of credit for putting Amadre Williams on the list, and I agree with it. How about you?
Nope. Boring sports talk right there. I totally agree with exactly what you said. I just when I'm looking at Amadre Williams, he just has to be the guy that fills the role Derek Marks vacated this year. Him or Chase Benson. And that is going to be key for Montana State going forward.
I could see Amadre Williams packing on some more weight. I don't know what he's at like right now, like 240, 245 maybe, but he could easily get to 260, I think. And yeah, kind of fill that Derek Marks role where he's just a really active interior defensive lineman doing stunts and twists and running all over the place while Benson kind of just handles the middle, or maybe that, like Brooks was saying, that new transfer from UW just kind of does this Jason Scrimpos role where he just is a huge man in the middle that you have to put two guys on, and then that allows Chase Benson and Amadre Williams to do whatever they do. So I think I'm more optimistic the more I think about the defensive line than I was a few weeks ago, but we still have some questions to answer. But yeah, I think Amadre Williams, regardless, is going to have a big year.
Well, good for the three guys on the preseason top 20. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Okay. This is where I got fired up today. I've been arguing a little bit on Twitter. I don't argue very much. I don't usually comment on these lists because I really respect like Sam Herder and Brian McLaughlin just putting the time and energy to do this. They get a lot of crap, a lot of flack. There's no one else doing this. Like, there's no way you can watch film, two guys on the FCS where there's barely any film to watch. How does Marcus Knight be a second team running back in anybody's scenario ever? How does that happen, Foley? He's not even. Marcus Knight last year is third string on the Bobcat roster. He's behind Isaiah Nfonse. He's behind Logan Jones. He's not even the best running back in the state of Montana for the college teams.
Who's Marcus Knight?
Yeah, I should probably mention that. Yes, Marcus Knight is a running back for the Grizzlies from last year.
Okay.
And I pulled up some stats because I was curious for Mr. Second Team All-American Marcus Knight. Last year, he finished fifth in rushing yards in the Big Sky, but he also played, he made it all the way to the 13 games. Most running backs got 11. Rushing yards per game, and this is where it reflects. He was 9th in the conference. Rushing yards per carry, he was 17th in the conference. That includes quarterbacks in that stat. Receiving yards, he was 4th, so he's a pretty good receiver. And then when I'm saying 4th, I mean 4 running backs. Obviously he's not the 4th leading receiver in the Big Sky Conference. He was 5th in reception yards per game, 5th in yards from scrimmage, 9th in yards per scrimmage per game. But where he really stood out, and I think this is where he gets a lot of love from the media, is his touchdowns. He did score 23 touchdowns last year, which was a pretty impressive stat. He led the Big Sky by a wide margin in that. Actually, not by a wide margin. I guess Joe Logan from NAU was he had 20 touchdowns himself. But you take away the fact that he's a touchdown machine from 15 yards and in, after the offense gets all the way down there. I don't understand how a guy like that is second team All-American, personally. He's he's like the guy you put on your fantasy team because you know he's going to be a touchdown machine and he's going to get you fantasy points. You know he's not the best running back in the league, but he's going to get the touches on the goal line. So I don't know. I don't understand how Marcus Knight is second team All-American running back. I don't think he's even a top 4 running back in the Big Sky Conference, let alone in the country.
You're telling me Marcus Knight is better than Elijah Dotson?
I don't think Marcus Knight is better than Elijah Dotson. Think about this. As Bobcat fans, let's do like a little fantasy draft. All right, go around the big sky. What other running backs do you want on your team right now as a Bobcat fan? What are we kind of missing? We might be missing the kind of guy who can really catch the ball in the backfield, like Afonso can, but you got Alonzo Gilliam, the best at catching the ball in the backfield. You got Elijah Dotson right behind him. If you're going for that kind of running back, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't understand how Marcus Knight. He's a touchdown machine. That's the only thing I can possibly see. They see that touchdown stat and they get all excited about it. And kudos to the Grizzlies. That's one stat you cannot pad. It's clearly when he crosses the goal line, that's a touchdown. Every school scores that stat the same way.
It's a little tongue in cheek when I asked who's Marcus Knight, but not really. Like the guy didn't flash to me at all on my radar last year. Like he was nothing in the Cat Grizz game. I pay attention to the Grizzlies, and so I knew who he was, but for it to be second team All-America, yeah, that's crazy talk right there.
And I
sure
honestly
he's going to listen to this and have a all season type. We're going to spur him on now, right?
I think he was also aided a lot by the fact that Dalton Sneed was such a mobile quarterback and a threat to run with his legs. So you can't take that away from him and just try and be more traditional running back. I don't know. I don't see him being All-American for second or third team. But that's about my only real gripe with the list. I'm a little surprised that I think they had the Grizz receivers kind of backwards, personally. They had Samari Toure on the list. I think Sammy Akim is a better wide receiver than Samari Toure, but they're both studs, so no real argument there. But Marcus Knight, I saw that, and I almost spit my coffee on my monitor.
Right on, buddy.
And then your buddy Robbie Hauk is on the first team safety.
I love Robbie. Okay.
He's first team, like
that one.
first team who, if we're the Bobcats, we're running the ball at.
I know. So that's when I think of Robbie Hauk, not to go on too much more about this, but my memories of Robbie Hauk is him chasing whatever Bobcat guy who had the ball into the end zone multiple times during the Cat Grizz game. He was almost there, but not quite.
It's really hard because, again, like you're talking about the guys you've seen play, like the Grizz players. I didn't watch a lot of Grizz games this year, so your only experience is really watching them in the Cat Grizz game. The only defender on the entire Grizz roster I thought was up to the hype was Dante Olson. I heard Robbie Hauk, such a talented but undersized safety. He looked really bad, but I understand he's not always that bad, and that's how things go. Sometimes you just get your butt kicked in a football game, and that's not indicative of anything, but can't say I'm too impressed, and being a Hauk doesn't certainly help me think more of him.
Right on. All right, Thorny, let's move into our final segment tonight. Montana State is coming out, just guns blazing into the last week. We signed 5 guys, all state of Montana kids, going back to the mantra of owning the state. We have, and this is for this coming class. So they would come into school in 2021. We have Elijah Reynolds from Red Lodge, Montana, tight end. He was 2019 Class B All-State tight end and defensive end. We have a guy named Eli Abbey. I hope I'm saying that right. From Laurel, Montana, quarterback, safety, Class A, All-State safety, Class A runner-up. Cade Cutler, Phillipsburg, Montana. Another P-Bird guy there. That's pretty cool. He was 2018 All-State quarterback. And we have Jace Fitzgerald from Dillon, Montana. Dillon Pipeline still strong at Montana State. That's pretty cool. He's listed as an athlete. In 2018, he was an all-state tight end. And last but not least, the guy today, Jace Fisher, Troy, Montana, offensive, defensive line. That kid's a load. He's like 6'5".
He's a big boy.
325. According to Vim on the board, he's kind of a project, but
that's what you do in the FCS, especially with Montana kids. You gotta be projects sometimes.
Yeah. From my initial impressions are, get any good Montana kid you can, and whether they work out or not, these kids seem to be let's just put it this way: Montana kids are the backbone of your program, right?
You just got to have them.
And
Like, it just boils down to you
exactly.
got to have Montana kids on your roster.
And they more often than not seem to be the players who just sacrifice everything for the team. And I don't want to marginalize out of staters. And that's totally not what I'm saying. But you think back to between both programs, just the stories that you hear and see year in and year out, these guys who have partial scholarships, walk on scholarships. I mean, some of these guys we're listing probably are going to be, preferred walk-ons, partial scholarships, guys who are getting little to no money, but are going to make the biggest impact in the team because they just want it more than being a Bobcat has meant everything to them in their life. And now they get to play for the Bobcats. And to me, that's what it is, man. And I love those stories.
Well, weren't at least one of these guys I know comes from like a Grizz legacy family, right? Like the Fitzgerald, Jace Fitzgerald. Of course, his brother plays here, RJ Fitzgerald, but the Fitzgeralds were historically Grizz, so good to get switch him over there. And wasn't there one more of the group here that was from a Grizz family? It might have been Cade
Maybe
Cutler.
Reynolds.
I'm not sure, but I remember reading it. Another one of them was, but you mentioned when you were reading the list there, Cade Cutler. You said another Peaberg. Who's the other one? Or do you even know that you said that?
I do remember saying that, but I don't know who the other one was. And then I read the next line, Jace Fitzgerald, and it was Dillon, Montana. And Dillon's close to Phillipsburg.
Okay.
And so I think I was thinking of Dillon. Sorry.
I was like, have we ever had like a Phillipsburg guy? Like, I was like, who is this? Such a small little town. It'd be pretty impressive.
Great candy shop, great brewery.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome place.
Candy shop's cool. Phillipsburg's cool. Cade Cutler, you're probably pretty cool too. I'm excited for all these guys, honestly. Like, this is a nice start to the class. I hope it's just a good thing, good things to come, because a lot of Montana kids left, of course, on the board, if you will, to sign, but it's a really good start. And I'm curious, do you think there'll ever be a starting quarterback from Montana State from Montana? Tommy Mellott maybe has the best chance, but
yeah, that's who I was going to say.
Just seems
you can never
hard.
say never. We're going to be old someday, and then there's going to be plenty of kids that go through this program. Tommy Mellott definitely is, from what I've read and what I've heard, the real deal. So no doubt he could be, in 2 years, our starting quarterback. And wouldn't that be something, a guy from Butte, Montana, being a starting quarterback at Montana State?
Ugh, that would be groundbreaking, at least for a long time anyway. A reversal of a long ways.
Who was the last Montana State quarterback from the state of Montana?
I can't remember. I should know this. Is probably pretty easy trivia. Who do you got?
It's Jake Bleskin.
Bleskin, that's right. Yeah. We talked about him last episode, unfortunately.
CMR grad.
Yep.
Boy, Jake.
And then there was Mark Dezen briefly, very briefly, for at least one game. Yep. That was also a disaster of a game.
He was a flash and pan. He had one game where he was just lights out. And then, yeah,
that was a little quick sidebar for we in this episode. Yeah, he was like, what, third string quarterback? It was Cody Kempt was hurt. Mark Iddens was hurt, I think. And then Mark Dezen gets the call. And then we lose 35-3 in Missoula when they're wearing their stupid, old, ugly uniforms. Pretty sure. Let's not rehash that. This is a terrible way to end this episode.
You know what? I'll end it on a positive note. What I'm seeing right now is these Montana boys, in a way, to me, seem to recruit the other Montana boys to come on to the Bobcats, right? And so when one guy pledges, one guy signs, one guy commits, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to put it out now. I'm going to put it out. I'm going to put it out. And no doubt these kids are texting their friends, social media is blowing up.
Yeah, they recruit each other these days.
Yeah. So apparently we have a pretty deep pool in Montana this year, which has not been the case in the last couple of years. So we'll see how this pans out. But Montana State has some good momentum. And honestly, why wouldn't you? Like, if you look at Montana State right now, what they have and what's coming up, the shovel's in the ground already for
Yep. No more. It's not just talk. The shovel. The construction has begun. It's there.
What is it called, Ryan? Does it have
I don't know.
a
Athletic
special name, like-
complex, I think.
yeah, they need to rename it. Whatever it is,
Bobcat
they
Athletic
need
Complex, the BAC. That's kind of funny.
they can name it the R&R Athletic Complex. That'd be way better.
Yeah.
However, just the fact that your head coach is Jeff Choate would be enough. I would sign my son up, both of them, on the line if I could. You know, I'm super impressed with that, man. Not so much for Bobby Houck, but I would love for my sons to be around a guy like Jeff Choate.
Yep. Couldn't envision much better coach just to teach a guy about life and life skills and all the stuff that goes with football, all the stuff that goes outside of football than Jeff Choate. Speaking of Jeff Choate,
All right. Places to be.
been saving that. Saving it. This episode's running long. That's Jeff Choate
All right, buddy.
from the Cat Chris press conference. All right. Well, as usual, you can find us on Twitter. R&R. Geez, it's RR Catcast. I dropped the N. It's RR Catcast. You can subscribe to us on iTunes to get the latest episodes before you listen to me blast it out on Twitter and the Bobcat Nation. You might as well be subscribed, so it just shows right up in your feed, ready to listen. That's about all I really have for this week. I want to thank Shine Brewery for being a sponsor on the show. Appreciate that. And let's end it with the Go Cats.
Go Cats.